Welcome to this 4th of July weekend edition of Second City Sports Zoom style.
Zoom style.
Along with Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. That is me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow this podcast, Second City Sports First, right here on YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. Videos drop every Monday and Friday. Once again, videos drop every Monday and Friday right here on YouTube. Also, you can search for our audio version of this podcast. It drops every Tuesday and Saturday. Once again, every Tuesday and Saturday at War on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Excuse me. Type in that search engine box. WARR on Anchor. That's WARR on Anchor on all podcast platforms. You can go to our website, weareregalradio.com for details, and you can follow us on all social media platforms, including right here on YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and right here on YouTube at WARR Media. Thank you very much for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We have very definite opinions. You don't know about that. What was his, that politician of Good Times? Fred C. Davis.
Yes, that's who that was.
And I'd like for you guys very soon, hopefully, to give us a kind donation, if you know what I'm saying.
Most folks on the third will not get that reference, Sid. So
go look it up on YouTube and you'll get it. All right, we're on Unapologetically Fun. Lakeena, I'll let you start this one off. I'll ask you this question. Do you want the good news or the bad news?
We get the good news.
All right. I knew you was going to say that. The good news is, as of this recording, the 48-32 first place Chicago White Sox swept away those hated-ass, talking trash, underachieving Minnesota Twins. That's right. I said it. It was originally a 4-game series, but Monday's game was rained out. It will be made up in a couple of weeks when the Twins come back here following the All-Star break. The White Sox took care of business by superweighting the Twins early this week on the South Side. They are currently playing the Detroit Tigers this weekend. Of course, we'll give you our review of their series come this weekend and their next series, I believe, at Cleveland. In our next episode. Lakeena, observing that series, of course, off the field, you have Josh Donaldson going at it with Lucas Giolito, and then Josh Donaldson decided to trash Ozzie Guillen, the pre- and post-game host on NBC Sports Chicago's White Sox coverage. On the field, the White Sox had enough offense, including last Wednesday's game, hitting 6 home runs. Gavin Sheets, the right field rookie. I'm not going to sit here and say he's the rookie of the year, no. But if he's your replacement from Adam Eaton, who's currently injured, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Brian Goodwin. Yeah, Brian Hamilton. Good grief. Sorry, scratch that from the record. Brian Goodwin, I should say. Brian Goodwin had a couple of home runs in the last 2 games of that series. He's come in and done a nice job. Billy Hamilton is back. Of course, another setback, but looks like a minor setback. Johan Makata injured his hand last Thursday. He is not in the lineup for this weekend series against the Detroit Tigers, but he'll be back in the lineup soon. Thank goodness. There's a bunch of trade rumors going around. We'll break that all down in just a minute. But Lakeena, let's focus on the field with the Twins. As we said before, Lakeena, and I'll say it again, if you're the White Sox, if you're a first-place team, you take care of business with teams that are below 500, and they did just that. They got some timely hitting. They got some good pitching. Those bats woke up, they looked alive, and in the way they went, they took care of business. They're currently on a 4-game winning streak as of this recording, and so everything's looking good as of right now for the White Sox. And the Cleveland Indians are, I'm not going to say they're fading fast, but they are beginning to fade. But I'm not calling this race over yet, but things are looking good right now, as we told you guys with the White Sox schedule, the way it's looking right now between now and the All-Star break.
Well, and look, I mean, their offense came alive, like you said, Sid. I mean, Grandal had some home runs. Abreu, who was only settled like maybe 1 day, was had a couple of big hits, and look, I think that this is what you want, if you're the White Sox, right? I mean, look, I don't see why anyone was freaking out about what happened a couple of weeks back. We said it before, ebbs and flows in the season. And I think Look, you beat a team that you're supposed to beat. You swept a team that you should have beaten in Minnesota. I'm not going to get into that whole thing with, Josh Donaldson, Lucas Giolito. Apparently, Lucas's dad, Rick, got in the middle of it too, and then Ozzy was dragged into it. So I'm not even going to get into that because it's really no sense in doing that. I mean, look, Zach Collins had the go ahead home, the tie breaking home run to kind of break that open, and for them to actually end up sweeping the series for the White Sox. I mean, the pitching wasn't great, but it did just enough, and the offense picked up the slack. So if you're the White Sox, you gotta be feeling pretty good. You're playing a Tigers team that you should be able to, at the very least, win the series. Win 2 out of 3, and look, I think you should be in a pretty good spot. Like you said, Sid, Cleveland didn't have a very good week. We'll get to the rest of the MLB in a second, but in a little bit. But I think if you're the White Sox, you're in a pretty good spot right now.
You are if you're the White Sox. I know GM Rick Hahn, many of you White Sox fans out there on Twitter, I read some of your tweets saying that he still should make a move right now. We'll get into the nuts and bolts of those rumored deals in just a moment. But I like the way this team is playing right now. Like you said, Lakeena, it was more about the offense waking up in the last series. The pitching did enough just to hold it down, but I'm going back to last Thursday's game. Of course, Carlos Rodon was rolling until the 5th inning when the Twins got back in the game. But I was getting ready to ask some questions about this particular player, but guess who subbed in for Rodon on Thursday? Mr. Michael Kopczyk. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he didn't pitch the best, but he did enough just to keep the Twins at bay. I like that. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt again, because he's the future of your rotation. He has your bullpen looking better on paper right now, outside of your closer Liam Hendriks, who should be an all-star, by the way. Kopczyk did look good. It wasn't his best, but he looked good enough to keep the White Sox in the game, and so I was encouraged by that. But as I mentioned at the top, rookie Gavin Sheets, if he's here for the rest of the year, so be it. If you could DFA Adam Eaton, I'm all for it. You know what I mean? So him, Billy Hamilton, and anybody else that can play some decent right field, I'm all for it. And so there's not too much you can complain about the White Sox in this series. The offense was the name of the game. They took advantage of bad pitching. As I told people the last couple of years, I'm not a fan of Minnesota's starting staff. You saw that in this series. And Miguel Sanu, Nelson Cruz, I think Nelson Cruz had a home run in the first game of the series, I believe. Outside of that, he didn't kill us. Miguel Sanu, he's a shell of himself. He didn't kill us. So only person that made a minor threat was Josh Donaldson. I'm with you. I'm going to follow your lead. We're not going to dip and dive into that. That's old news now. I'm sure it's going to be brought up again next week when the Sox go to Minnesota to play the Twins at Target Field. It'll be a bigger deal. Hopefully not, but it'll be a bigger deal once they come back here right after the All-Star break to play the Sox on the South Side. But offense was the name of the game. Hopefully they can stay hot between now and the All-Star break. As you mentioned, they play the Detroit Tigers this weekend. And so you need to pile up the wins as possible. I know some people fear Cleveland getting back in the race. As I said before, and I'll say it again, and we said this before the season started, Cleveland's going to make this look good. They're going to stay competitive because of their manager, Terry Francona. I know Josh Naylor, I believe the outfielder, was injured last week, and he's going to be out, I believe, for the year. And so Cleveland's going through their struggles too. And I know they're playing in their current series at home against the Houston Astros this weekend. I know they lost on Thursday. But Cleveland's going to make this look good, but I don't see them as a real challenge to the White Sox. And Rick Hahn, the GM, he's going to make some moves. I believe he's still going to be closer to the trade deadline. But this Sox team, trust me, folks, they will not be the same in the next 3.5 weeks. It's not going to be the same. We just have to be patient, and hopefully Rick Hahn makes the right moves.
Well, yeah, especially with Robert, apparently, at least Robert, apparently, he is going to be, he's going to get approved for baseball activities. It still could be a while before we may even see him back, before he even does a rehab assignment. So, that's something to look out for. Eduardo Escobar from the Diamondbacks, that's a name that's being floated around, among White Sox circles. Supposedly there was a trade already put in place, but but then again, there are other teams that are after him as well. So if you're Rick Hahn, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here until who are going to be the contenders, because you got about a week left before the All-Star break. So, this is going to be like peak, teams jockeying for position.
And also, too, Lakeena, as I said before on this program, blockbuster deals rarely get made before July 4th. You know why? You want to know why? You really want to know why?
Mm.
I know so many folks are waiting for the answer. The price
Pause.
is too high.
Yeah.
Seriously, the price is too high. If you saw that report like I did, Lakeena, it was reported that Escobar was offered to the White Sox for Zach Collins and Jake
Jake
Berger.
Burger, yeah.
Yeah, I know Jake Berger's up here this week to replace McConnell on the roster because McConnell's hurt with that hand.
Yeah.
But Zach Collins is your catcher for the future. I know Yasmani Grandal didn't make the All-Star team via the starter, which voting ended early on Thursday. But and Yasmani doesn't have the numbers in terms of batting average, but he makes an impact on the base pass, at least drawing walks and occasionally hitting for power. I get that, but Zach Collins is your future for the White Sox at catcher. I'm not giving him up. Jake Berger and a couple of these other outfielders and other prospects, fine. I'm not giving up Zach Collins.
And
But
nor
like I said,
should you. Nor should you.
exactly.
It's good, but then again, you know what? I mean, if you're talking about, if you're in this win now mode, you may have to give up one of your top guys,
Mhm.
in order to kind of make a deal happen. So you know that these teams are not just going to give the Escobars and the Max Scherzers. They're not going to give those guys up for free. So it's going to be interesting to see who else is going to be out there for the White Sox to be able to try to trade for.
And also, too, I heard this name that was brought up around a couple of people via the Twitter. I'll bring this guy's name up now. And he actually had a couple of big hits in the series against the Twins. That's Andrew Vaughn. If you really want to part with him, I know he was originally drafted and brought up here to replace Jose Abreu before Abreu signed that contract a couple years ago. If it was the right deal for Max Scherzer or somebody of that statue, would you part with him? Me personally, I wouldn't if it was the right deal.
Well, I know people still want to bring up Fernando Tatis Jr. and what happened there, but hey, it is what it is. If you're in this win now mode scenario, unfortunately, you're going to have to maybe perhaps part with one of your top prospects in order to get a deal done. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if what Rick Hahn decides to do. I mean, he's in a good situation, but he also is in a tough situation because he's probably going to have to maybe part with one of his top guys. So who knows?
Yeah, it's just my fear is, I'm using this in air quotes, fear that whoever the player is, that Rick Hahn is going to give up the entire farm system. I don't think he's going to do that, but that pessimistic fear of mine is right around my head somewhere. I trust that he's going to make the right deal, but as we said before in our last few episodes, the White Sox don't have as many prospects as you think they have. So, as you mentioned, Lakeena, if they're going for it now, you had to part with a couple of your pieces, not the whole farm system, but a couple of your pieces, and maybe one or two guys off your current roster. We'll see. But if you want to make an impact deal to go to the next level, yeah, you will have to part with one or two of those prospects.
Well, we'll just see what Mr. Hahn decides to do. So let's go to the north side of town for a second, Sid. Unfortunately, the Cubs got swept by the Brewers earlier this week. They're playing in Cincinnati for a 3-gamer right now as we speak. They're 6.5 out of the NL Central, and there are already folks that are sort of like giving up that that Jed Hoyer should just start getting ready to trade guys and such. What say you?
I had that same thought this morning. That I know where you're kind of going with this, but I'll let it out in my own way. What did I say in our last episode, Lakeena, about the Cubs in that series against the Brewers?
Don't get swept. That's basically what you said.
Exactly. And they got swept. But what did I say if that happened?
What did you say? I forgot.
I said that Milwaukee.
My old age is catching up.
Very funny. I said that Milwaukee will feel good about themselves, but I don't think this race is over. Is Milwaukee a very good team? Yes. Do they scare you? No. If you're the Cubs, yes, you have to get back on track and get back on track quickly. We said that this schedule, leading up to the All-Star break, is very important. Now, looking at inside the numbers of that series against the Milwaukee Brewers, you could make a case for all three of those games, but at least two out of those 3 games you had a chance to win, including the Thursday one, which was a killer.
Oh, well, that was just
You
brutal.
led 7-0 off of Ashby, who made his debut out of AAA, and you couldn't pile him on any more runs. Of course, Jake Arrieta, as we told you guys on the show, he's not the pitcher that he once was. He had a good streak in April, hot streak in April, but the rest of the time, it's been a shell of himself. We saw that on Thursday. But going back to our last episode, I said the Cubs, you couldn't afford to fall 6 games back. But if you did, the season's not over because, as you mentioned, Lakeena, they're playing the Cincinnati Reds on the road for 3. If you don't get up for that series, something's wrong with it. And of course, you come back home next week starting Monday to face an underachieving Philadelphia Phillies team for 4 straight games. You have before this time next week when you host St. Louis, you have 7 games. The worst you could do is go 4-3. I expect this team still to have a winning record by the time we hit the airways next week. So if the worst you could do is 4-3, you're still in pretty good shape. This team's got to go at least 5-2 to be realistic.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go by schedules, like you said, Sid, I mean, this is sort of the time to try to, get back on the ship here. I'm not one of those folks that say, hey, let's trade, trade Rizzo, trade Bryant, start trading everybody. Look, the NL Central is still winnable. You look by the schedule with the Brewers. Yes, they're finished up a 4-gamer against Pittsburgh. I know they won on Thursday, 7-2. But they got 3 against the Mets, and they got 4 against the Reds. If there's a chance they can still kind of get back to that mark where they could be in a losing situation. But if you're the Cubs, try to get to 5-2, maybe gain a couple of games before you get to the All-Star break, and you'll be right there in that division. The Brewers the Brewers don't scare me at all. I'm sorry, they don't. Mm-hmm. The Brewers and Cubs, I've been saying this, they're very similar. They're mirror images of each other. Right now, the Brewers got the edge, but I'm not going to give them the division just yet. There's still a shot here for the Cubs. There's still an opening for the Cubs. Now they got to get their guys right. They got some guys on the DL right now. Some of those guys are starting to come back. Also, too, I think they have. Yes, the schedule's a little bit tough, but I think it's very winnable. You can win the series against Cincy. You can win the series against Philly before the All-Star break. It's there for the taking. And I think if you're the Cubs, you gotta get back on track and try to get to that that mode that I think. Look, I think you can, because look, I've said it before, and we've been saying this since the season started. This Central Division is very winnable. We could probably put St. Louis out of their misery next weekend by the time we reconvene. So your best bet is to hope that you finish 500. At the very worst, you want to finish maybe 6-4 in this these last 10 games for the All-Star break. Try to gain a couple of games against the Brewers so that you can be right there to compete in the division at the All-Star break.
You're listening to the weekend edition of Second City Sports, 4th of July style, along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sidney Brown. I am not drunk, folks. We're just getting a little excited around here as we talk about the Chicago Cubs. Lakeena, I'm still, if you're a Cubs fan, you should be very concerned. Of course, you can say, well, they were supposed to be hyped up for the Brewers series. They were, but they just got outplayed. It happens. And so, and it's happening at the wrong time, obviously, especially given them where they are in their schedule right before the break. But it's still not over yet. Even though Cincinnati is a rivalry too in your division, you should take care of business against them, and you should have no problem against Philadelphia. The worst you could do is split those 4 games. Realistically, I believe they'll split those 4 games. But if you take at least 3 out of 4, you should be okay. Now, getting back to the the players. Of course, Anthony Rizzo has been nicked up. Chris Bryant has been nicked up. Jake Arrieta, I heard a couple of people talking on the radio over the last 24, 40 hours or so that the Cubs should suggest him to go on the disabled list. RIP to the late, great basketball Hall of Fame GM Jerry Krause. Make up an injury.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind the Cubs doing that because assuming that they keep their head above water, above 500 between now and the All-Star break, as we said before, they need a starting pitcher anyway.
Yeah.
And so to make room for it, you have to do something like this.
You got to be creative, I think, if you're Jed Hoyer. And look, I'm not one of those, like I said before, we're not one of those people that feel that the Cubs should, start selling and selling and selling. I know look, I know there have been some people that said that they should, but again, look, that division is very winnable, whether people want to admit it or not. So look, I think if you're who's out there though, if you're the Cubs, if you need another starting pitcher, who are you going to get? And I think that's sort of the $1 million question. Who's out there that the Cubs will be able to get, and who they can get for the cheap?
Yeah, will it be Joe Barrios from Minnesota? Will it be Madison Bumgarner for Arizona? I doubt it. But who else is out there?
If there is any, so I don't know.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I was thinking about this morning. If you're GM Jed Hoyer, of course you can't pull the plug just yet.
No.
I got to see how this team plays this weekend into next week. And, of course, as you mentioned, Lakeena, this time next week, we'll be wrapping up the first half of the season. They have 3 big games at home against St. Louis. If you don't have above 500 record going into the break, everything's out on the table. I'll say this. If you're 6 games or under in terms of trailing in the division, you're okay, obviously because of the wild card. But if you're 7, but definitely 8, 9, 10, 11 games back, I don't care what you do coming out of the All-Star break. It's time to blow this team up. Let me say this again. If you're 6 games or less trailing in the division, you're okay. If you're 8, 9, 10 games back, it's time to break this thing up.
Couldn't have said it better. Couldn't have said it better myself, Sid. Well, you look, like I said, great minds think alike. You listen to Second City Sports along with Sydney Brown. I'm Lakeena McGee, our 4th of July edition of our great show. Now, Sid, what impressed you the most this week in MLB? Or what kind of weird stuff that didn't, that made you go, you scratch your head?
I'm going to give props to the Atlanta Braves. They took the last 2 games out of 3 against the New York Mets. Wednesday's game, they piled on 20 runs. And last Thursday, they defeated Jacob deGrom, the unstoppable Jacob deGrom. They won courtesy of Freddie Freeman's game-winning RBI off of closer Lugo for the Mets. And went off his right leg. They won the game for Atlanta. So Atlanta, one of the few teams to beat Jacob deGrom this year. So Atlanta, as we talked about before, Lakeena, the NL East race, I believe, is still up for grabs. Atlanta's been struggling all year long. They're not at 500 yet, but they're itching closer. So it was important for them to take these last 2 games earlier this week from the first place New York Mets. Yeah. I know the Washington Nationals are in the 2nd place technically, but I'm still not a believer in them. I know Kyle Schwarber, the former Chicago Cub, he's on fire. But I'm not a big believer in them. No, I'm not.
Yeah. Well, look, like I said, that like the Central, I think that NL East is still very much open, with the exception maybe for the Marlins. Everyone else in that division, the Mets, the Nationals, the Braves, the Phillies, they're all those 4 teams. I really think that division is there for the taking. I think it's going to be interesting to see who makes those moves, before the trade deadline, I should say. So all these teams got to play each other still in the second half. They're going to be doing it a lot. So it'll be interesting to see what the setup is going to be for that.
And also, let's show some love to Shohei Ohtani of the Anaheim Angels.
Yeah, right?
It was supposed to be a 4-game series with the Angels and Yankees this past week, but Thursday's game got rained out. It'll be made up later on in the season. But during that short 3-game series, I believe Ohtani had 3 home runs. I watched some of that game live via my computer. And as we said before, as of right now, he's your front runner for American League Most Valuable Player. I know he's a starting pitcher as well. He has okay numbers there. But his hitting is impressive to me. And he's making you forgetting right now that Mike Trout is out for the next few weeks. So am I saying that the Anaheim Angels are destined to make a run for the wild card? No. But Shohei Ohtani is a must-watch right now for Anaheim.
Yeah, I know he didn't have his best pitching performance against the Yankees, but he allowed 7 runs, But the weird thing is that the Angels actually ended up winning that game. So I mean, just a little I think that's just the second time ever that two teams, the Yankees and the Cubs, lost 7-0 leads and end up losing the game. But that's another story that
Yeah, I watched that game too. That game last Wednesday. Yeah, Anaheim was. It was after a 42-minute rain delay. Anaheim was trailing 8-4 going into the 9th inning. Aroldis Chapman, former Cub, former world champion with the Cubs, gave up a grand slam to. I'm not looking this up. I'm just going off of memory here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, help me out, look here. No, my age is showing.
I know,
The
right?
rookie, Jared Walsh.
Jared Walsh,
Jared
yeah,
Walsh.
Walsh.
Yeah, he hit the grand slam. Yes, memory's still good. It just takes a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
Jared Walsh, who they brought up to replace Albert Pujols, who they let go, he hit that grand slam. Of course, it was a part of a 7-run ninth inning. The Yankees, as we transitioned over to the AL East, the Yankees, I know they're 2 games above 500 as of this recording. They're not looking good right now. Is it a real possibility that they could miss the playoffs? I believe so. Corey Kluber now is being reported that he won't return till September. If that's the case, you may be out of the race by then. I don't think I think you'll be out of the division race by then, but I don't know if you're gonna be in the wild card race.
Because there's
At least the way they're playing right now.
Look, there's a log jam that wild card spot right now. You got the Rays. I think Cleveland's there too, I believe, and also Oakland. So you're gonna have to compete those teams. Yeah, I think Toronto's also going to play a factor as well. I know they had their struggles in the last few days this week, but I think they're still going to be in the running. So there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot on the AL wild card. And look, I'll give Boston credit. They've won 7 in a row as of this recording, and they're still right there. Now, can they hang on? We'll see what happens after the All-Star break, but. I mean, I think if you told me that the Red Sox would be leading the AL East in the first week of July, I would have thought you were crazy.
Yeah, as I said before, I don't like the Red Sox starting pitching. I know you have Nathan Eovaldi. I know you have Rodriguez. They've been doing okay. I know Chris Sale's been throwing off the mound. He's just started throwing off the mound early this week. Of course, most of you don't know. He had Tommy John surgery. He missed all of last season. And hopefully he'll make a comeback sometime after the All-Star break. So there'll be a big addition to their pitching staff. But I still not a believer in Boston. Tampa Bay still hanging around there. So, like you said, it's going to be a long jam. The Yankees may be the team that's looking upwards, and I don't think this may be a hole to dig out of. I know GM Brian Cashman for the Yankees had a press conference before one of the games against Anaheim earlier this week, saying that they're not panicking. Yes, they're working their way out of it, and he's giving manager Aaron Boone a vote of confidence. But if they don't get it together soon, I know they have Boston again, I believe, coming out of the All-Star break. If they can't get it together within these next 2.5 weeks, you may not have no choice but to sell out some of your parts. Will Aaron Judge be traded? Who knows? And who else has any value? Because that's still from parts of that roster, still an older team.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see if the Cashman said he doesn't want to make any big sort of want to make any snap decisions, but he may not have a choice though at this point if they don't catch up soon. But also the Dodgers, I mean, they're only a half game back of the Giants. They actually swept their mini 2-gamer early this week.
I watched some of that as well. Yeah. People may call the Giants fool's gold. They may be as far as the division winner is concerned, but I believe they're still going to be hanging around for a wild card. So it'll be interesting to see what the Giants management does during the trade deadline, because I don't think that team is going away. And also you have San Diego as far as in the West Division race is concerned as well. They certainly got hot as well.
Yeah, that's also an older team, and so you got to think Gabe Kepler. We were saying before, you got to think he's definitely going to be in the running for NL Manager of the Year along with Rossi. So, but look, I think we'll see. I mean, I know the Dodgers, they got the Nationals. They won their game on Thursday. It was cut short because of the rain that hit that area in the Mid-Atlantic. But we'll see what I know Muncy had a grand slam that kind of broke that game open before it was called due to rain. So it'll be interesting what the Dodgers do. I think the Dodgers are sort of, because they're getting some of their guys back too. So I think their Dodgers are kind of starting to show those signs of the team we've seen the last couple of years, especially from last year's World Series team. So. We'll see what they do. Look, I still think the Giants are going to hang around, though. I think they may not. I don't think they're going to hang out for the West and National League West, but I think they'll be right there for a wild card spot.
I agree. Also, too, on the bad side, we talked about the Cleveland Indians. I know they're currently playing the Houston Astros at home this weekend, but they had trouble against all of a sudden the resurgent Tigers, who's playing the White Sox as we speak this weekend.
Resurgent Tigers, yeah, there's something that we never. Resurgent Tigers, yeah, there's a phrase we haven't heard, right, Sid? I mean, the Resurgent Tigers.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's gonna be, like I said, it's gonna be very interesting. Like I said before, we got a week before before for the All-Star break. So it'll be interesting to see how these teams are gonna, by the time we reconvene next week, Sid, like it's gonna be interesting to see where a lot of these standings are gonna be. Will there be a little bit of, getting closer? There'll be some flippage? Who knows?
Yeah, just before we move on, let's take a look at the schedule for this weekend. So we refer to some of the games. We'll run them down for you again as we enjoy our Fourth of July holiday weekend. Of course, San Diego's at Philadelphia to take on the Phillies, the Dodgers, and Nationals. As Lakeena mentioned, for those of you listening on our audio version of the podcast, there will be one of 3 games on Fox Saturday Baseball tonight. Mm-hmm. Of course, you have the Brewers and the Pirates this weekend. Mets and Yankees. The Battle of New York is taking place this weekend. Yeah, Subway Series time. Yeah, get your tokens. I don't know if they use tokens anymore. But
I doubt they use tokens.
It shows you how old I am. Of course, you have Tampa Bay at Toronto. That's in Buffalo, New York. Big series for both teams there, especially for Toronto. Yes. Of course, the White Sox Tigers. Of course, Cubs and Cincinnati Reds, Astros and Indians. There'll be the other game going on tonight on Fox for Fox Saturday Baseball. Marlins at the Braves. Hopefully the Braves can take care of business there. Minnesota at Kansas City. St. Louis at Colorado. Baltimore at Anaheim to take on the Angels. Of course, Baltimore, congrats to them. They swept the Houston Astros early this week. Yay. And, of course, the number 1 game for Fox this week will be Boston at Oakland. That's tonight on Fox. And, of course, the series wrapping up this weekend for July 4th. San Francisco at Arizona, and then Texas at Seattle.
And for those of you who are wondering, it'll be the Mets and Yankees that are getting the Sunday Night Baseball treatment. So you can check that out, all your New York teams, to see who will be getting some bragging rights there in the Bronx.
Yes. You're listening to Second City Sports Weekend Edition for your 4th of July holiday weekend. Hoping you're enjoying that. You staying safe. Don't do anything stupid. Along with Lakeena McKee, I am Sydney Brown. Lakeena, let's wrap this first segment up talking about the NBA playoffs. The conference finals, as we said in our last episode, is winding down. Let's say congratulations to the Phoenix Suns, your 2021 Western Conference champions. They defeated the Clippers in 6 games. They are on their way to the NBA Finals. Congratulations to point guard Chris Paul. He finally has reached the summit on playing his first, making his first NBA Finals appearance. Of course, let's review the last 2 games quickly, Lakeena. The last 2 games of the series, it was classic. Of course, the Clippers beat the Suns in Game 5 last Monday, 116-102. Paul George had a personal career playoff high in 41 points. But, of course, the Phoenix Suns came back and dominated the Clippers in that second half, defeating the Clippers on the road 130-103 to take the Western Conference title. Chris Paul had a personal career high of 41 points. Lakeena, I cannot blame Paul George for the Clippers losing. You can attribute that to a couple things: Kawhi Leonard's injury, and number 2, they just ran out of gas.
Yeah.
And Phoenix was a better team.
Yeah, and I think that you pretty much covered it today. I think the fact that they're just okay. My nephew, who's a big fan of Kawhi, he was he just left, so he came and visited, so he wasn't in a very good mood because he's a big Kawhi fan, and I just don't know what happened. And
real quick, Lakeena, does your nephew think that I don't want to open a can of worms, but I'll do it just because it's us and we're family.
Okay.
Does he think does he want Kawhi Leonard on the Bulls?
Oh no, he doesn't even. I don't even think that's even crossed his mind. That hasn't crossed his mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Don't put that in his brain.
Go ahead. I won't even mention it to him. He hasn't even brought it up. But yeah, I mean.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I mean, look. You met with PG. I know people are gonna be saying, playoff PG. Where was he? Look, I mean, there was no, there was. They just didn't have him. And then I think, look, you commend, all those guys for grinding out for that win against Utah in the semis, but they just ran out of gas, like you said, Sid. And look, I think Marcus Morris Sr., he had 26, which was a playoff high for him. And it just didn't matter. Look, Pat Beverly completely lost it, pushing, shoving, CP3. I'm like, really, and well,
that was just dumb.
Yeah, and I wasn't, you know what, you were kind of in my way. I wasn't trying to push you, like, okay, like, Devin Booker was on
Right.
the side, but whatever. But, nice way to separate, to represent Chicago there, P-Bev, but that's another story. But, I mean, look, I mean, congrats to the Suns. They totally earned it. This is their third trip to the finals. Hopefully, third time will be the charm for them, and they can win it. Look, CP3 really wants this, 41 points. Like you said, so it's a playoff best, best for him. He and Monty Williams, they've been through a lot.
Yeah, shout out to Monty Williams too. We've been giving props to him all year on this show. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, look, they go back to their days in New Orleans. CP3 helped him go through, get through the loss of his wife, the sudden loss of his wife, and they clashed for a little bit, but they got close as the years go on. And look, you get older and you grow and you evolve and change. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. And look, Jay Crowder had 19. Got to give them props. Devin Booker's becoming a star in the playoffs. We talked about him. DeAndre Ayton, showing his worth. He had 16. I mean, in that clinching game. I mean, look, I think the Suns. Look, we told folks about the Suns. Now, okay, none of us in our playoff preview, none of us had the Suns going to the finals, unfortunately. But look, we all said that we don't be surprised if that did happen. And look, I know people want to put an asterisk on these playoffs because of the injuries and whatnot, but the Suns are definitely a team where you can say they've definitely earned their spot in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, and I remember saying this a while back that I think they were a piece away, and maybe they still are a piece away from really dominating the Western Conference for years to come. It depends on what happens during the NBA Finals in the next couple of weeks. But you had to give it up, as we said, to head coach Monty Williams. Besides Chris Paul, who's made a real difference on that team, Devin Booker has been on fire all season, definitely in these playoffs. And hopefully more people are starting to pay attention to him. You haven't watched these NBA Finals. But DeAndre Ayton's starting to come in his own right now. He's been MIA the first couple of years in the league, but not this year, of course. We talked about campaign. Of course, we can blame Jim Baldwin all we want to for his struggles here in Chicago, but he's found the right situation. He's the perfect backup to Chris Paul. In those couple of games that Chris Paul missed, he stepped up. Of course, Mikal Bridges has been doing it as well. You mentioned Jay Crowder. He's been there before with Cleveland, with LeBron. Of course, he was with Boston, a couple other winning teams, playoff teams. So he's a veteran that's been there before. But Phoenix has the perfect mix of young talent and key veterans. And that's what's gotten him through. Of course, CP3 still has that shoulder injury, but it hasn't bothered him one bit.
No, and look, you can tell that I think he's
and Devin Booker's broken nose.
Yeah, I'll say I'm still wearing the goggles too, and not wearing the goggles.
Yeah.
Not wearing the goggles, but yeah, I mean, this will be his first finals in 1,214th game of his career. That'll be his first trip to the finals.
Mm-hmm.
That's the second, that's the second like most in the career of a player's first ever finals, behind only Kevin Willis. That was 1,429 for him. So that's another.
He had a long, great career, Kevin Willis. I believe he lasted 20 years.
Yeah, very underrated. So, yeah.
He was good in those Atlanta teams back in the 80s. They just couldn't get over the hump. They had to go through Boston, then Detroit. And, of course, when Chicago came up in the 90s, that team was old, and they were traded, including Dominique Wilkins. Real quick, I remember that I was at an after-school function in grade school the night that Dominique got traded to the LA Clippers. Remember, that was the year that Michael quit.
Yes.
In 94. And Atlanta had the best record in the East for sure. I don't know in the league, but definitely in the East for sure. It was between them and the Knicks, and I believe the Pacers at that time. And, of course, Orlando got up there, too, afterwards when Penny Hardaway, the rookie at the time, got in the starting lineup. But it was a shock that Dominique Wilkins, your team was at number one spot in the East, and Dominique Wilkins gets traded to the Clippers.
To the Clippers of all teams.
I still couldn't figure that one to save my life, but going back to
that still made no sense, Meek and the Clippers. Yeah, that's one of those sort of times where you forget that even happened.
Yeah, but getting back to today's present time, congratulations to the Suns again. They deserved it, and let's see what they do in their finals. I'll be cheering for them. And as we wrap up this first segment of the weekend edition of Second City Sports, let's go quickly review the Eastern Conference Finals between the Atlanta Hawks and the Milwaukee Bucks. Of course, Game 6 is tonight on TNT at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Let's review Games 4 and 5 quickly. Lakeena, Game 4, Atlanta defeated the Bucks 110-88. Of course, Giannis Antetokounmpo hyperextending his left knee. He did not return to that game. Of course, Trae Young didn't play as well. Drew Holiday led Milwaukee with 19 points in that game. Lou Williams led Atlanta with 21. It was nice to hear from him again in terms of Lou Williams. And, of course, on last Thursday night, the Bucks returned the favor at Fiserv Arena. They defeated the Hawks 123-112. Brook Lopez led Milwaukee with 33 points. Bojan Bogdanovic led Atlanta with 28. Lakeena, maybe one or both of those players I'm talking about, Trae Young and Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't know if Giannis is going to play tonight, but if Trae Young plays tonight, that's going to give Atlanta a boost. If it doesn't, the result that I just read to you from Thursday, it may happen again tonight in Atlanta.
Well, and look, Brook Lopez and Bobby Portis, with the playoff highs for them. And look, I think this is sort of one of those times when both teams lose their superstars, but yeah, it depends on who's supporting cast step up. And unfortunately for the Hawks, I know that, Bogdanovic had, 28, and Gallinardi, now with his hair, looks like it's a decent, it's a decent spot now. He had 19 off the bench. That was just, Clint Capella, where were you, dude? I mean, Kevin Huerter, where were you? You only had 8 points.
Yeah.
And so I think that, look, hopefully maybe, Trae Young will be able to play, because if not, the Hawks role guys better step it up, because this is going to be a very similar thing to happen, in Game 6, and you're going to end up going to the golf course, guys.
Yeah, like you say, who wants it more? Who's going to be the healthiest? Who comes out more of the aggressor tonight for Game 6? Whoever does that first and can sustain momentum, that's the team who's going to win the game. I believe it's on Milwaukee's side, obviously, because they have the 3-2 series lead. But I know that Atlanta has the home crowd, and that should give them an extra boost. But if Milwaukee executes down the stretch, they're going to take Game 6. I expect them to do that tonight, whether the Stars play or not.
Well, look, we've seen a lot of strange things happen in this series, so it's going to be, I don't expect nothing different, tonight. I mean, like I said, it's going to be very interesting to see what they do with the Hawks. Will they have an answer for? Can some of their role guys step up? I think that there's going to be that mindset where, we could actually end up losing the series, and our season could end. So it's going to be interesting to see how they respond.
You talk about Clint Capella. Where's John Collins? He's been very good for the Hawks in these playoffs.
I mean, he had 19, but yeah, he did miss some, some key shots late. So that's sort of like, maybe a thing there. But they need to also improve on their 3-point shooting too. They were 39%. That's not gonna work against, especially if you're trying to face a Bucks team. You weren't able to take advantage of that. That was another team that was struggling for the 3-point line. You weren't able to take advantage of it. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, like I said, I think. Look, don't be surprised if Atlanta does end up winning tonight and this goes to a Game 7. If you're the Suns, you're probably just chilling because you're going to be nice and fresh, and whoever is winning that series is going to be exhausted. And especially, it's going to be if the Bucks do win, will they have anything left in the tank? So, because they had to go 7 against the Nets. Now they're going to go 6, maybe 7 against the Hawks, a team that some people thought they should have swept. So, I don't know. That's going to be very interesting.
All right, let's take a pause for the calls. This 20-second timeout is brought to you by Second City Sports. Stay tuned for more sports and more fun as the weekend edition of Second City Sports continues with hometown girl, Miss Rachel Kopczyk, the host of the House of Hockey podcast. We'll talk everything, not just hockey, but everything else in between. You know how we like to do it here at Second City Sports. We'll have a whole lot of fun with her. It's been a while since she's been on this program. So for Lakeena McGee, I'm Sidney Brown. Stay tuned. We'll see and hear you on the other side. Welcome back to the second half of the 4th of July weekend edition of Second City Sports Zoom Style.
Zoom Style.
Along with Lakeena McGee, which is she, I am Sidney Brown, which is me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter and the IG at CK80. Once again, at CK80. That's SIDKID80, SIDKID80.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow this podcast, Second City Sports, right here on YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. Videos drop every Monday and Friday. Once again, videos drop, every Monday and Friday right here on YouTube at War Media. And you can go to the audio version of this podcast at War on Anchor. Once again, at WARR on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type in those search engine boxes on those podcast platforms, WARR on Anchor. You can go to our website, weareregalradio.com for more details. That's WEAREREGAL radio.com. And you can follow us on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and right here on YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Thank you very much for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
And we have very definite opinions. Pardon my Black Richard Nixon. But to kick off the second half of the program, we have a very good friend of the show, Chicago's very own, and my future ex-wife. Oh. She is the host. She is the host of the House of Hockey podcast, and she's also a reporter and part-time actress. We'll get into that. And she's a versatile media personality. Let's please welcome back to the program, Miss Rae Rae, Rachel Kopczyk. Rachel, welcome back to the show. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for the applause. I love it. I don't get that very often, so I appreciate it.
But for those of you watching, and those of you, I was supposed to say, listening on our audio version, Rae Rae is wearing a very special but creative Chicago Blackhawks t-shirt. Tell us what inspired you to purchase that shirt, besides being a Hawks fan, of course.
Well, I'm always looking for cool Hawks gear that isn't so sporty that I could wear in my everyday life and be a little more hip and cool. And this is designed by Line Change Company, and it's actually sold by the Chicago Blackhawks at the Chicago Blackhawks store. Nice. But it's designed by hockey wives Angela Price and Julie Petrie, two of the wives of the Montreal Canadiens, which we will get into. Montreal. But they design these like incredible lines, and they've actually launched a couple other teams. So if people listening aren't just Blackhawks fans, even though they should be Blackhawks fans, they have a couple of lines coming out. So I bought like almost everything she had because I just loved it.
Very nice.
And I had to wear it here with you guys. Are you kidding?
Of course. Of course.
Absolutely. All right, so we got a lot to get to with you, Rachel. So let's start with this. What have you thought of the Stanley Cup Final so far? For those of you who have not been watching or haven't been following, it is the Montreal Canadiens against the Tampa Bay Lightning, the defending Stanley Cup champs. And I know it's weird because of the way the setup, because both these are supposed to be Eastern Conference team, but because of realignment and whatnot. But as of right now, Tampa is up to nothing. So what do you think about the series so far, and do you think Montreal can catch up? They've been very resilient these whole playoffs.
I want, in the depths of my heart, for Montreal to catch up and to beat the Tampa Bay Lightning for a reason I can't explain. I have nothing against Tampa, but I love cheering for an underdog because they were so overlooked and doubted, the Montreal Canadiens, all season and all through the playoffs even. I love that even more. And I love Carey Price, and I want him to get a cup. I love the young kids. I love watching as some new ESPN broadcasters say, Caulfield, which is not his name, Caulfield. But again, I should be on ESPN instead of that person who was on there. But anyway, Cole Caulfield, Nick CP, and Tyler Toffoli, formerly of the Kings. It's just fun to watch. And then they've got those awesome veterans like Shea Weber and Jeff Petrie and Corey Perry. Some people hate him, but either way, it's good hockey. They've got a good system happening. Their coach was in quarantine over the last 14 days. He'll be back tonight, game 3 in Canada. And I think in game 2 that Montreal, I think they had more shots on goal than the Lightning. They just weren't going in. They had all the opportunities. They were making all the right plays, and the luck of the puck, as I like to call it, just wasn't in their favor. And I don't know if they're gonna be able to win the next 4. They'd have to win 4, they have to win the next 4. It's so hard to come back from a deficit of 2-0 in a series. I think maybe it's been done before. I think our Blackhawks have had a similar situation, right? When we played.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe
yeah.
not in the final, but in the semifinals or the conference finals. But I don't know. I just have a bad feeling that they're not going to do it. That's just how I feel. And I don't like it. I hate saying it. But I hope that they make the rest of the series interesting. That's all I hope for.
Speaking of the Canadiens' opponent, the Tampa Bay Lightning, we talked about before we started recording that they have better success since they lost to the Blackhawks in the Stanley Cup Final 6 years ago. I still can't believe it. That's we'll get into the Blackhawks later, but maybe I'm out of pocket for saying this, Rachel. Even though I follow the game of hockey, I know you follow it closely as well. Maybe you could say you've been out of whack. But I know that Steven Stamkos won his first title last year in the bubble against Dallas. It looks like they may be on their way to winning back-to-back. Can the hockey world finally start to give this guy his props? Or maybe I'm just out of my mind.
Who, Stamkos?
Stamkos, yeah.
Who isn't giving him props? The hockey world isn't. I think he's well deserved and pretty talented, though very injury prone in the last several years and has, had some of that struggle. But I think he's very well deserving. Stammer is an incredible player. Victor Hedman, my goodness, how many awards does that guy have from the NHL?
He could have won MVP 6 years ago if they would have beaten the Hawks. Yeah. But that's how good he is.
Yeah. I mean, they've got a stellar lineup. And this fun fact for you, Pat Maroon, who plays for the Lightning, he could be the first ever player to three-peat, to win a Stanley Cup 3 years in a row, I think, since there's a caveat. Since a bunch of the New York Islanders many moons ago when they won back-to-back, but of recent time, he would make that. But a lot of people also don't like Pat Maroon, but I'm here for it. So that's what hockey's about, right? You've got your tough guys, and you love to have them on your team, but you don't want to play against them.
Yeah, I mean, I find this interesting that these are the tale of two different teams. I mean, you got the Lightning who are the defending champs, and I know people want to, they played in the bubble, there should be an asterisk, but they're showing you that, maybe it wasn't a fluke last year. They've actually been pretty dominant. They've been close a couple of times. And also, too, I mean, the Canadiens, it's been, since the early 90s, they've even gotten this far.
93 since they won,
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah,
so
Savoir Faire, Dennis Savard, who was hurt, he got his championship ring in a suit.
But you finally got his ring finally, though. So let's not don't take that away from him. Price has been really good, but it's just that I just kind of feel that I think the Canadiens, I think they can do it, but they need to be more aggressive, and I think that's kind of been the problem these first couple of games.
Yeah, they're missing that grit, that grind. And that's something that I think Tampa's done really well over the last several years of adjusting. And you can just see it in them, in their passion and their fight and their resilience on the ice to just keep going. And I think the Canadiens need a little bit more of that. But also on the same hand, they haven't played with fans up until recently, and they've only got 4,000 fans. And I think that plays a huge difference in that atmosphere too. And in that building, when at Bell Center, when fans are in there, it's a totally different environment. And I think also not having their coach for the last couple of games been actually behind the bench. I know they're talking on Zoom and stuff in the locker room, but I just think it's a different experience, and it's just a little bit harder. And they've got to really bring it. They've got to bring that fire, though they have been bringing the intimidation factor, because 3 of them have had bloodied faces and over the last playoffs. And I mean, they're bringing it, but it's just not enough yet.
You're listening to the weekend edition of Second City Sports along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. As we talk to our good friend, Chicago's very own Miss Rachel Kopczyk, the host of the House of Hockey podcast. Rachel, as you talked about just a moment ago, the fans were allowed back into these arenas, and that's what makes the Stanley Cup playoffs so special. Me personally, I haven't had a chance to watch many other games. I watched the condensed versions of these games. You can tell that the crowds have been huge, especially when Vegas was in there and with the New York Islanders. I know it's one of the teams that you like. Of course, they've been playing in the Nassau Coliseum, seems like for the 25th time, and for they just won't let that building go. But what teams surprised you both in a positive sense and a negative sense throughout these playoffs in a strange condensing year?
Yeah, I definitely was rooting for the Islanders. I just have a soft spot for them in my heart after spending some time on the island and meeting the fans. And that fan base is so special. Just ignore the fact that they threw beer cans on the ice. That was just the Long Island way of celebrating. So if you saw that footage, the Twitter was all up in arms. And I was like, oh my God, get over it. Okay. There's like, we threw catfish on the ice and octopus and rats. So like, get over it. What's the difference with beer cans? You guys like calm down. But anyway, I was really hoping that they would, because you could see the passion. That was a team that had that passion on the ice. If you watched any of the Islanders games throughout the playoffs, you could see that. And I think that's what I'm talking about. If you can compare that passion, that physicalness, obviously the Canadians are passionate and they want to win, but you could really see it on the ice. I'm a little disappointed in Vegas, and I know so many hockey fans.
Me too.
Yeah. But why do people hate Vegas? And the hashtag anyone but Vegas. I'm like, what do you guys have against them? They're a great team. How can you not love that team? That building, the Vegas vibe, the glitter, the whole thing. And plus all of those players have such a personality on the team. I think they're an awesome team. And I don't hate Vegas, and I was really rooting for them, but it was the Mark Stone show, and they were struggling with their offense. They could not get it together. I know they had a couple of players out with injury, but I was really sad to see them not advance. And then who am I missing? Hold on. I got to look at it feels like forever ago now, looking back. I think Boston. I thought at the end of the season, Boston had really come together with Taylor Hall, that recent acquirement, and he really found his home and was on fire. And I thought they could have gone a little bit further. And then I really wish that the Florida Panthers hadn't been paired up with the Tampa Bay Lightning in that first round, because I think that they could have gone further. But the way the league was restructured, I called it about the Colorado Avalanche that they wouldn't get anywhere near the conference finals, which is being called the semifinals this year, or the Stanley Cup Final. The President's Trophy doesn't mean anything if you have the best record in the league, and Tampa can tell you that because they know what that's like. I don't get it with the Avs. They don't do it for me. I don't think they have that it factor. They've got incredible talent, but you end up with, they're like the Oilers when people are like, yeah, but McDavid, and he won like 2 awards, but like, yeah, the biggest award is the Stanley Cup, and you alone on that team isn't ever going to get you a Stanley Cup. And I don't think they play this game to not try to win the Stanley Cup. Like all the Hart trophies and everything are real nice, but like, really? So when people are like the Oilers, there's McDavid, I'm like, oh my God, please stop. He's on the wrong team and he doesn't have the support around him. Period. The end, in my opinion.
Before I kick it back to Lakeena, I think the real reason, right, that people are jealous of Vegas because they made it to the Stanley Cup Final in their first year. Yep. Before they lost to Ovechkin of the Capitals. But I think that's the real reason why.
Well, and the league did that on purpose. So those are people who aren't real fans or don't know anything, because they did not want to have the expansion teams of this recent years to be stuck at the bottom, because that doesn't help the franchise grow in any way, shape, or form. I don't think the league expected them to go that far. But to be in playoff contention for these first few years is huge for the league, huge for the sport, and it was only going to help it grow and keep the franchise alive, which is what's going to happen to Seattle this fall. So get ready. Get ready, Twitter. Get ready, you fake hockey fans, because Seattle about to be in the Stanley Cup playoffs next year. So get ready. That's how it goes.
Well, I want to bring that up with you, Rachel. I mean, of course, Mark Archer fully won best goaltender of the Vezina Award. But I mean, I think also the fact that it is Vegas. Vegas and hockey don't mesh well together. I've been hearing that for all these years now, so I think that's probably another reason for the hate. Now, Seattle is different because in the Pacific Northwest and everything. So I think that might be more of a natural fit, with hockey, even though you would think it wouldn't be. But the Kraken, as they're called, so it's going to be interesting to see.
Hi, Kraken.
Right? Yeah, right. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how.
My Terry Boris.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I mean, that's actually pretty good, actually. So it's going to be interesting to see how they set this team up, because I mean, it's sort of like, I think, Seattle, I think people say Seattle, if, they have a hockey team now, but they don't have an NBA team. That's a whole nother story there, right, Sid? But, they got David Hextall, as their first coach. It's going to be interesting to see how they build this franchise. So where do you see Seattle maybe within the next, 3 to 5 years?
I think they're going to be in playoff contention every single year, if not wild card, or they're going to be performing really well, because the way the draft is set up, the way that the NHL and the organization work is so that they can be successful. I think the fan base in Seattle is just eager to get on board. Mm-hmm. They are all behind this, just like the city of Vegas was. That's what I have to say about the last that I'll say about Vegas, is that if you go to Vegas and you go to a Golden Knights game, you will be floored at the knowledge of the fan base and the devotion to the team. And just because it's the desert, that city is so happy to have a team that was born there and that's their own, and they take such pride in that, the people of Vegas. So just go and visit now that we can travel again. If you're feeling safe, go get yourself a ticket to a Golden Knights game. You will see the difference. And I think Seattle and the Kraken are going to perform very well. I'm just anxiously awaiting for the expansion draft. I can't wait to see who they end up getting. It's going to be like the Vegas expansion draft all over again. Like you were just saying, Lakeena, Marc-Andre Fleury. I mean, he was a legendary Pittsburgh Penguin. The Penguin fan base was shook. They were like, we're losing Marc-Andre. Tears and sadness and this whole, so this is going to happen again. Maybe not to Pittsburgh, but this is how it works. They get the opportunity to have top players from the different teams in the league, and it sets them up for success. Though, you can't just have the good players. You've got to have that special magic camaraderie sauce, and the coach has to be able to bring all those people together that are going to be coming from all over, and hopefully they will be just as successful as Vegas was. Because honestly, you want them to succeed if you're a hockey fan, because if they don't, it only hurts the sport long term. So you should want them to succeed. You don't have to want them to win the Stanley Cup, but you have to want them to do well because it's good for the sport. And you get to travel to Seattle and go watch a hockey game. How cool, I mean, I fully intend to go to Seattle and see one of the games in the inaugural season. I did it for Vegas. It was very high on my list. I was like, I have to go and see, I don't care what game, I want to see an inaugural season game in their barn and get a feel for it. So
you're listening to Second City Sports along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. We're talking to a friend of the show, Chicago's very own Miss Rachel Kopczyk. She's the co-host of the House of Hockey podcast. Rachel, I'll be honest here. I think I told Lakeena this on or off mic. I'm not sure, but whenever that last game is, or the Stanley Cup Final, it's going to be a end of an era for the NHL and NBC. Of course, I'm like everybody else. I'm waiting for the return of the NHL to ESPN starting in September for next year in the fall. Of course, Turner Sports is in and on it as well, the NHL and TNT. Of course, the Winter Classic will be back next year. I believe it's St. Louis versus Minnesota, and they'll be on exclusively on TNT now. No free television, folks, so you had to get cable or streaming, however you watch your games. And, of course, TNT and ESPN will be starting the new era of hockey starting this fall. I want to ask you, at least before I ask this question, I just want to say this. I think I told Lakeena this on or off mic. I'm not sure, but whenever that last game is for NBC, first of all, I hope they do a montage, because if they do, they'll feature, of course, the recently retired Doc Emmerich. Of course, they better show the 3 Stanley Cups for the Chicago Blackhawks. I'll have a couple of tears in my eye. So
Me too.
I'll have a couple of tears in my eye.
Yeah.
For good and for bad. We'll get to the bad later. But I'll have a couple of tears in my eye. But I'm really looking forward to how ESPN does it starting in the fall. And they better, at least for the first year, maybe not next year, but at least for the first year, bring back the old music. Please bring back the old music, because I don't know if you guys remember, but I remember watching ESPN when they had the NHL on the first time. And this is, of course, the era after Michael Jordan retired from the Bulls. They bumped some NBA playoff games. I know this for a fact because I was in college watching the late editions of SportsCenter. They bumped some outside of the Lakers and Philadelphia with Iverson. They bumped some other NBA playoff games till later because they covered the Stanley Cup playoffs. And so, with that network, they covered those playoff games. They aired first in that first Blackhawks Sports Center. I'm just interested to see how ESPN covers this next year. They better bring that music back for at least the first season. I want to get your thoughts on it.
I sure hope they do too, and I hope they bring back those incredible commercials with the hockey players.
Yes.
I know there was people were resharing those when this news came out, and there's a huge lineup of big hockey names being tapped to join the broadcasting panel in some capacity, which I'm not gonna lie, I'm really interested to see how Wayne Gretzky does. I think he's with Turner Sports.
Turner, yes.
He's going to be doing. I just don't know him for the personality. I don't think a lot of people know him for his personality, right? We know him for his skill and his greatness. So I'm intrigued to see how this all plays out. They've got big money, big hockey names, big legends. I think Chris Chelios has been tapped to be involved in some capacity.
Yeah, he's on ESPN. I think his daughter's covering the Lightning, I believe. She's in the business already.
Haley
does a great job.
And she's been tapped by ESPN as well. I would love to see that show. I want to see father-daughter, in some capacity, who knows? But I
They'll
do.
probably put him on First Take and Stephen A. Smith yelling at him for no reason.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Chris Chelios is just going to... Chris Chelios is going to walk over and go, shut up. And he's just going to throw right hook and be done.
So he might punch him. Who knows? I mean, we know that if you push the right buttons, I'm sure Chelsea's gonna deck him. Leah Hextall, who has done a great job. She's been covering hockey for 17 years. That's Ron's. I believe that Ron's that's his niece. I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So, but she is in her blood. So, she's been covering hockey for 17 years. She's gonna be calling some games. Kevin Week's gonna be doing some studio and game work. So, the lineup looks pretty diverse. I know some people were saying that maybe Gary Thorne should have been, up in there, but I think they wanted to go a little bit younger. Sean Medetta did some hockey for a little bit. So it's not. I don't have a. Go ahead, Rachel. I'm sorry.
But here's my biggest concern: where is Patrick Sharp? Where is our Sharpie gonna land? I need to see that beautiful face and that beautiful hair and the excellent feedback he has on TV. Somebody better pick that boy up. I'm gonna be really mad if Sharpie isn't back somewhere.
Also, too, let's give ESPN credit. They did pick up Steve Levy. I know he's the current voice for college football and Monday Night Football, so I'm glad they brought him back. And John Buccigross, I know he's been campaigning for a long time for the ESPN and NHL to get back together. He's going to be calling some games as well. I don't know who's going to be the number one team over there, but it better be him and Kevin Weeks. I know they did some tournament games on that network, and, of course, outside of college as well a couple of years ago. So hopefully that's the number one team.
I think it's a welcome change. I think the hockey community of fans, the fan base has changed. The game has changed so much in such a short period of time, just with even technology and the way we watch games and how we interact. And this younger base of fans, as well as the older generation, it's all kind of changed and shifted. And I think we're all looking for new voices. We want to hear people talk about the game a little bit differently, but we still need a lot of that constant, right, that we're used to, like from Eddie Olczyk and you know, Catherine Tappan and Patrick Sharp. And, you know, I want to still have that core, but I think Bucci's going to offer a different perspective, and having some of these veteran star hockey players come on and talk is also going to give us a different insight, especially on, like, the game is different from how they played it. It's still obviously the same at the core, but to be able to analyze it and talk about it from their perspective of how it's changed, I think is going to be interesting to hear. And then, okay, guys, I'm like officially old, but the NHL announced some TikToker or something who's now the voice of the fans. What is this kid's name?
Don't. Look, I've never used TikTok, so I can't tell you.
You guys, I was like, I don't even
Me
know. I was like, somebody performed at the Lightning game the other day that was like 24 golden or something. I was like, I don't even know who these people are. They have gone way too far to the younger generation. Like, I don't know who these, I've never even heard of this person. And they've hired some TikToker or something to be an analyst and to be the voice of the fans. And I was like, excuse me. Hello, I'm right here. I don't know who the hell that guy is. He's not the voice of hockey fans. I've never heard of him, and I'm a hockey fan, so try again. But like, I don't want to see Sidney Crosby doing some TikTok video. That's all I know.
God.
So like, don't make hockey players aren't going to stand for that kind of bull. Like, they're going to be like, no. I mean, they'll do some stuff because they're fun, but like ask Chris Chelios to do whatever the latest trend is. He's going to be like, no, shut up.
You will look like you're crazy. He's going to look at him like he's nuts. No.
Yeah, no, like, sit down. We're not doing that. I'm here to talk hockey. Get out of my face with that thing, you know?
Purge. Let it out.
Oh,
I know, I gotta let it out. I was so mad. I can't even remember the kid's name. I'm like, I'm sure you're great at what you do, but like, just leave hockey alone. Leave us alone. We don't need you and your nonsense and these like musicians I have literally never heard of, you know? Just
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how they set up all this, you know, both ESPN and Turner, because you've got, like you said, with Wayne Gretzky, we don't really know him to have this, you know, big, vibrant personality. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does with, you know, doing studio work. So we'll see. Well, we'll see who else, you know, Turner adds, but I think that's going to be the interesting part. I mean, we know Messier has got a great personality. He did some TV work for the Rangers for a little bit. So, you know, I'm looking forward to see what he does. You know, him and, you know, Chelios are probably going at it too. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh yeah, that for sure is going to be happening, and I'm looking forward to that. Oh, here's this kid's name, Richards, social media star, quote, stoked to help the NHL grow their audience. Get out of here with that. I can't. Josh Richards. What? You're stoked? Who's your NHL team? I never heard of you before. I never seen your videos. Like, what? No. No. Sorry, I'm done. I'll be nice now.
He'll be nice. She'll be nice. Go ahead, Sid.
Continuing with our interview with Rachel Kopczyk, co-host of the House of Hockey podcast, right here on the 4th of July weekend edition of Second City Sports, along with Lakeena McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown. That's me. Okay, Rachel, we're going to go around the world like a soap opera, like talking about the Chicago Blackhawks, of course. Jonathan Toews earlier this week announced that he's coming back for the 21-22 season. He's been battling this chronic, I'm not going to say illness, but he's been battling some health issues over the past year. Of course, you got the stuff off the ice with the former video coach. And, of course, you have Pat Foley, the legendary TV voice that is going to, quote-unquote, retire at the end of this upcoming next season. You can pick any of those three topics, Rachel. I'll let you kick it off. We'll you know how we do it. We go around the world and then some. So which one of those three subjects you want to start off first? Go right ahead.
Oh, my captain, Jonathan Toews. Let's start with him, because I have to say I breathed a huge sigh of relief when he posted that video and addressed that he was dealing with a chronic immune response syndrome, which, I mean, from the way he explained it, is basically his body was just under a constant state of fight and flight and couldn't heal and was in a lot of pain and needed to take some time off to recover. And I think this was the perfect time for him to do that on this shortened COVID season and to get better. And hopefully we can really see that Kane Tays power play magic that happens coming this fall. And I am glad he's okay. I'm glad it wasn't concussion protocol or any kind of like super serious physical ailment. I want to see him in that red jersey back at the United Center. So I'm very, very happy about that. Let's talk about the lighter subject and then we'll get to the heavier subject. So, well, I guess Pat Foley is still kind of a heavy subject, but I read some kind of tweet, I think from one of those Barstool guys that said that the organization was basically pushing him out. So, I mean, that's there. They said that they, had it on good authority from multiple sources, though I haven't done my own research. So I'm just reiterating what I've read. I think it's sad. I think, we love to hear the voices that we've grown up with listening call the games. And I guess there's change happens, things happen, people retire and move on. Hey, maybe he's going to ESPN or Turner Sports. So who knows? But, you never know. Somebody could pick him up or he might just actually be retiring. So I'm a little sad about that. And then the lawsuit. I mean, what do we even say about this? So what's the coach's name again? The former coach of the Blackhawks, he was a video coach, right?
Yeah, he was a video,
Aldrich.
Brett Aldrich, I think that's his name. I believe. Yeah.
That's okay. I was like thinking Brett Kavanaugh and I was like, oh no, that's a little bit of a different person. Yeah. But so I guess the original article I read when the lawsuit from the unnamed Chicago Blackhawks player from the 2013 team?
2010. The 2010. Yeah. Bradley Aldridge. I just retyped Bradley Aldridge. That's his name. That's the video coach. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the claims of what he was saying, that the unnamed player was saying about the sexual harassment and sort of like really just basically threatening his hockey career for sexual favors and things like that. I don't support any of that. And it's so shocking to see this happening at such a well-known, respected organization like the Blackhawks. And I mean, I know he was no longer part of the team for very long. He moved on, and I'm glad there's a separate investigation going on to find out really what happened and what's going on. But you never want to hear something like this. And it doesn't just happen to women. It happens to men. It happens to anybody in a position of power, as we're now seeing. I hate that it's, happening to our team and that this is the headlines that are coming out about the Blackhawks, but it happened and we have to fix it. And we can't let this happen to future generations. This shouldn't be happening to anybody, period, so, and I get the part about the player obviously not wanting to come forward because what if he's still playing? We don't know who he is. He doesn't want to live his life forever known as that player who this happened to. We don't want to hear that. And he doesn't want to deal with that. I mean, obviously we want to hear about it and what happened, and we don't want this to continue. So I'm glad that he spoke out, but that's a huge burden to have on you. And I just hope this isn't happening across the sport, which I'm sure there's been other instances and I'm sure in the other systems, but I feel like if we take care of it, and kudos to him for bringing it to light so that hopefully this isn't happening elsewhere and it was an isolated incident.
Myself, along with Lakeena, we refrain from talking about this only because this story is just gaining traction
Yeah.
over the last few weeks.
Mhm.
I'll just say this, like I said, this is not the end of it. This is only the beginning. But I'll say this: if any of this stuff is true,
Mhm.
whoever knew about it, and there's been stories over the last few days saying that the people in higher ups knew about it. If that's the case, they all should be gone. I thought about this the other day, and I actually told this to somebody the other day. Remember about this time last year before the playoffs started, John McDonough was gone, was fired from
Right.
the Chicago Blackhawks,
Yeah.
and I said, could I'm not saying it is for sure because I don't know, but could that have a connection to what's going on right now? Because if everybody knew, assuming that it's true, once again, assuming that it's true, everybody should be punished to the fullest extent of the law, along with losing their jobs.
If that means we get rid of Stan Bowman, I'm fine with it. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I don't mean to
Mhm.
make light of this situation,
Mhm.
but like, I mean, if this is all on Stan, in my opinion, then wasn't he there in 2010?
Yes, he
Yeah,
was.
that was
Yep,
his
he
first year on the
was.
job.
Yep.
Right. I mean, and I mean, I'm one to sort of, I don't think. I don't think they're connected. I know that's a possibility, but I don't think that has much to do with it. I think I'm sure a lot of people knew. What was the details again? Was he let go that season? He didn't go beyond 2010, right? Like that 2010 season.
Oh, the
The
video coach?
The
No.
coach.
the coach, no.
Yeah.
I think the story,
So,
yeah, the story was that he left after that particular season. Apparently,
okay.
there's some players have been on record. I know Brent Sopel's been on record saying that he was told about it. A couple other players from that 2010 team said that they were told, although they're not on record. Names are not being, they're not,
Right.
they're anonymously, I should say. So yeah, so there's definitely been, definitely someone knew something.
Well, that is the only thing that makes me feel better about this is that he didn't stay beyond that time of when the incident was reported. So that makes me feel like the powers that be were told about it in some capacity, and that guy is no longer part of the organization. So I think that speaks volumes, and I'm gonna go with that. I mean, what else, do you have to talk about it publicly? Though I do think there is a responsibility of the Chicago Blackhawks organization, if they did know about this, to say something to that guy, that video coach, to his former future employers, because I think I read that he was working at a university,
Yeah,
which
University of
is
Notre
even
Dame.
more
Yeah.
even more
Mhm.
terrifying. So why that coach is still working is an issue. And I mean, I think that the Blackhawks organization has a responsibility to the youth to pass on that information in some capacity to protect future players from being subjected to somebody like that.
And also to apparently, I guess, John Tortello, who was the assistant coach at the time for the Hawks, apparently he also knew. So, like I said, somebody knew something, but look, we don't really know what else, because they're doing an investigation
Right.
and such.
We'll learn more.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
hopefully we'll learn more. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm just glad he didn't stay on beyond that. I think, again, that's all we can really. He left, whether or not of his own accord. We can spin these things to however we need to, right? Like, did he quit? Did he leave? Was he fired? Doesn't matter. He was no longer part of the team. And I'm glad, like, how long did it go on? He was only there for like a year, right? One season, the video coach?
Yep,
I believe so.
It's not like he was there for years and this was going on and it was being allowed beyond an extended period of time. So I take a little bit of relief in knowing that.
All right, we're headed down the home stretch with Rachel Kopczyk, the co-host of the House of Hockey podcast, right here on Second City Sports, along with Lakeena McGee. I am Sydney Brown. Let's turn it back over to the fun side, Rachel. You know how we do. We also talked about this before we started recording. You recently became a movie star, for an independent film. I saw some of your highlights on your Instagram page. You can follow her on Lady on TV and The Hockey Lady. She's not only one but two Instagram accounts. She's a bad mother. Shut your mouth. We mean good meaning bad, bad meaning good. That's what I mean by that.
I
But
like that.
but you were in a independent film recently. Talk to us about that. How did you get the role?
Yeah, guys, a movie star. That's hysterical. Yeah. You know, I dabble in the arts, and so last fall I was asked to play a reporter, because I am really a reporter and a host by trade. And I was asked to play a reporter in an independent film that was being shot through a friend of mine, a business colleague friend of mine. He was the DP, director on the film, and was like, oh, I know the perfect person. She's really a reporter. She can do this part of, 2 paragraphs of dialogue. So I did that, and the person I was acting with in the film, he's also a filmmaker, and he came up with this short film, and it's called, I think, Family Affairs. It's not out or anything. I don't know where he's going to distribute it, but he was like, Rachel, I have the perfect role for you. It's a Italian upper middle class mafia girlfriend. And I was like, done, sign me up. What are we doing? I get to bicker with you and have fun, and we got to shred a fake dead body at the dump in a wood chipper, which was pretty cool. And so that's been fun, and doing hosting and traveling for that's been great. And I'm glad the world's opening back up again, and getting to be around people, and hopefully that means I'll get to resume some of my hockey fan video series now that fans are back around, and it's not so scary to approach people again and talk to them.
Okay, so what do you think the status is for? Let's talk about the Hawks and the good side for a second. So what do you think of their prospects for next year? Do you think can they kind of compete in for a playoff spot? Do you think there's the future, especially with Taser coming back?
Oh gosh, I'm laughing because this is just how it is, right? As a fan, I want that to be the case. And I'm going to go into October with the best outlook as possible. I'm super glad Taze is back. I think that Kirby Doc got to have a lot of practice and ice time in the big leagues and work out some of those kinks. Kaner's better than he's ever been. The goaltending, I think that's really not the problem. We've got 500 goalies on the roster that are all skilled. I think it's more of just the lines, the offensive lines playing well together, and the defensive lines getting stronger, because we've really got to work on that. You can't just have Duncan Keith back there coaching these newer players. So I think this was a good season for them, the Blackhawks in general, to explore that. And I think we saw the potential. I mean, they were in the race for a potential wild card spot this season. So I think that says a lot. I think there's the right pieces. I don't think all the pieces are working together yet. And I want to see the best hockey from Kane and Taze while we still have them in the red and the Chief head jersey,
Yeah, before we move on, of course, I said this throughout the whole season. The Hawks need a young veteran defenseman. And I think Dougie Hamilton's name's been brought up. Of course, Seth Jones, his father's a former NBA player, Popeye Jones. So of course, his name's been brought up. Of course, Duncan Keith. The tweet came out early this week from Elliot Freeman from Hockey Night in Canada, saying that the Hawks are looking to shop Duncan Keith. Of course, the era is over then. He's still good, but he's up there in age. And Adam Boquist, who I have high hopes for, he could be on the move as well. So I think the future is bright for the Hawks. I think they can make the playoffs. Stanley Cup, I'm not so sure. I'm not going to put my eggs in that basket yet. Can they sneak it into the playoffs? Yes. They still have a lot of young talent. We saw that this year. We saw that played without Jonathan Taves. And let's not forget, guys, it was a different realignment this year because the Hawks played a whole bunch of Eastern Conference teams, Tampa, Florida, and they don't match up well against those teams. They struggled against those teams. They're Western Conference team. Why are they not in the Eastern Conference with the rest of the original six? I'll never know. Commissioner Gary Bettman, I'm gonna keep the language clean for this one. I don't like him as a commissioner, but we'll leave that alone. But the Hawks are they're I believe a team on the rise. They can sneak into the playoffs next year. Hopefully things get back to normal in terms of the schedule. But they had a tough schedule last year, and I'm proud of them for what they did last year, even though they were a young team. I told Lakeena, you remember this before the season started. I know you had your fear of they were going to be one of the worst teams in the league. I said, leave that to the Kings.
Yes.
I said, leave that to the LA Kings. Leave it to the Detroit Dead Wings. That's right, I said it. Leave it to the Detroit Red Wings and leave it to a couple other teams, too. I said, the Hawks team, they may sneak into the playoffs. Of course, we found out Taves was going to play. But I said, the Hawks, they'll be mediocre at best, but they're not going to be one of the worst teams in hockey. Thank goodness it did not turn out that way. It looked bad at times, but it didn't turn out that way.
No, and look at Strome. Finally, Strome. I'm sorry, I was like running through the roster in my head, and I was like, no, DeBrincat. That's what I meant. DeBrincat finally had an incredible offensive consistency that we got to see, and it didn't just come in spurts. And I think that is a huge part because he's on the line with Kane, and Kane is grooming him and teaching him, and I think he's learned a lot, and I think that bodes well. Now, I mean, DeBrincat's never going to be a Patrick Kane, but I think he could be a really good, stellar player. Strome, on the other hand, is the one who I don't think did it nearly as well as he could have this season. And I'm still on the fence about some of these guys. They've really, like Boquist, I do think he has it in him, but I don't think they're fine-tuned enough. And I like Gary Bettman, Gare Bear. Why don't you like him? I think he does a phenomenal job. I think he does a great job. I wasn't going to say anything, Sid, but I had to because I think he does a good job. I think we're good with expansions. No more. I liked the realignment of the divisions. I thought it was fun. I thought it created more rivalries with the teams this year. It created a different thing for the fans to be watching and to see how their team compares to the other teams. And I think it's going to overall help the league. But why don't you like him?
Yeah, here's the thing. Their marketing plan, whatever plan they call
that's
marketing,
horrible.
That's why I don't like him.
Okay.
And here's the thing. When we talked about John McDonough earlier, if not anything else, you have to give him credit. When he was with the Blackhawks, of course, he had his time with the Chicago Cubs previously. He brought the convention, the fan convention to Chicago with the Cubs. Of course, he did it with the Blackhawks. I don't think they're going to have it this year, but hopefully they'll bring it back this time next year. But it's about marketing. Of course, it was perfect timing for the Blackhawks because they had young stars. The team was winning. And of course, they were on a Tonight Show. Speaking of that 2010 Stanley Cup year, they were on there during that season before they actually won the Cup. I said they had to do this on their own, and without the back end of the commission, this makes no sense. I know before people yell at me, they're not on the level of the NFL, even though they have marketing issues too, but in terms of their personal superstars. But they're not on the level of the NFL. They're not on the level of the NBA. They're just
I don't
like
want
baseball.
that to be. I don't want to see.
You don't?
No.
I'm sorry. Patrick Kane should be marketed just as well as LeBron James. I'm sorry. He's one of the top players in the league. and he should be marketed. Here's the thing with the NBA players, whether we like it or not, they're in music videos of the fan bases of the types of music their younger fan bases are listening to, whether we like it or not. Like Michael Jordan, we talked about.
I don't like
Here's
it.
the thing: you got to market, you got to push yourself out there to different audiences that they'll attract you to your sport. We saw that with Michael Jordan in the 90s. He was in movies like Space Jam and all that. We've seen that little LeBron James and younger stars like Damian Lillard. They're in areas where their fan base watches stuff. And let's be honest, the hip-hop culture has taken over the NBA over the last 20, 25 years. I get that. If you're the NHL, you need to put I want to see stars like Jonathan Taves, Patrick King, some of the younger stars in movies that you can attract the young fan base that are casually into hockey and say, I'm going to go watch that guy play. I know who he is. You got to put them in other areas that will draw new fan base and interest to watch your sport.
I agree with that last part of your sentence, but I don't agree that they should be in movies or music videos or anything like that. I like our sport. I like hockey the way it is. I like that it's a little under the radar. I like that the fan base is still really authentic. I don't want fake fans. I can tell you this right now. I don't want Drake on the sideline stomping his little foot at the players and like getting into beef with fucking Jonathan Taves. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear or not, but like now you're getting me fired up.
We'll give you the muggle for that one.
Sorry. I don't want to see any of that. Go watch the NBA. I'm fine. Like go watch the NBA if that's the kind of off ice nonsense you want to see. I don't want any part of it. Like I don't want any of that. And I think hockey fans would agree. Like that's not what this sport is about. It's about the game. It's about the players. It's about, the traditions, the chanting, the cheers, the fighting. Like keep all of that the same. I do think there could be a bigger audience, and I do think they have to do a better job at reaching the younger audience to keep the sport alive.
They need it too.
They do, but not that kid Tyler John or whatever I said his name was earlier.
I agree with you on that. I agree with you on that.
I whatever his name was, I can't even remember. But I think yes and no. Like I don't want this to turn into the NFL. I don't want this to turn into the NBA. Those can stay and be what they are, and you can sell out arenas and have nobody in the seats. Like I don't want any part of that. I mean, I watch hockey because I want to be cheering and I want to be talking smack to the person next to me about our teams and like being in it. So I disagree with you on some of that.
We agree to disagree.
That's fine. We don't have to agree on everything. We don't want to agree on everything.
Okay. We agree to disagree.
Stand your ground. What?
I still love you. Don't tell nobody that.
Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, Lord.
Lakeena, what do you have to say?
Our first public argument.
Look, I said this before. Look, I think both of you have raised some good points. I mean, look, I think you can always do more to promote your athletes. I mean, NHL needs to do more now. I don't want Connor McDavid appearing in a Drake video. I don't want, I don't think we want that. But, I think people should know who these guys are. And I think it's unfortunate that in the NHL, it doesn't seem like it's like that. It doesn't seem like it. So that's sort of like my issue with the whole thing with how they're promoting their players. But I mean, it is what it is. I mean, maybe ESPN will do some different things. Maybe they'll have them on First Take, some of the hockey guys on First Take on Get Up and those shows. I'm sure on TNT they'll do some stuff too, like maybe like Inside the NHL or something like that to kind of help promote the sport. So we'll see. I mean, it's going to be streaming too on some of the respective streaming services for both ESPN Plus and Turner. I think Turner has one too. So I'm sure they'll do more once, especially now that Seattle. That's going to be a team that a lot of people are going to be getting their jerseys for. So look, we'll see what happens. I mean, but look, you both raised some really good points. I'm going to be Swiss for a second to stay neutral here.
Okay.
I don't see it in.
Yes. I do. This is something I talk about with my co-host Breezy of the House of Hockey podcast all the time, is that, and especially with our guests and players who've played in the past, it's such a team sport still, hockey. Like it really legitimately is. You heard me talk about Connor McDavid and how you can't just be Connor McDavid and win a Stanley Cup. You have to have a team. You have to have all these other special elements to take your team to win the hardest and most coveted and oldest trophy in all of sports, the Stanley Cup. And I think that it's just, we need to still see a little bit more, to be a little more invested in Connor McDavid. Like, if I got to see a little bit more of him and his personality, I might not have such an aggressive reaction, you know, or like Austin Matthews, you know, I'm like, I can't with the like Justin Bieber and the bucket hats, you know, so you've got like this other side of it, right? Where the older fans are going, who's Justin Bieber, and why is this star player in Toronto getting paid millions of dollars to be seen out in the clubs, you know, and like that sort of thing doesn't sit well with hockey fans. And it's also different because we have social media now and we can see all of this. Obviously, hockey players in the 70s and 80s were out doing the exact same thing. It's just a little bit different, but I would like to see a little bit more of their personalities, because I think that hockey players have the best personalities of all of the athletes. They're some of the funniest guys. They're some of the easiest going, humble people in the professional sports world. And I don't want to lose that, which is why I don't want to see, like you said, McDavid in some kind of like New Amsterdam vodka commercial, like with a bunch of bitches around him, you know, like throwing back cocktails, you know, like, you know what I mean? I mean, I know that's really stereotypical, but that's just, you know, I don't want to see that.
Here's the thing.
I had to give an extreme example. So
we were spending the last couple winding down the home stretch with Rachel Kopczyk, co-host of House of Hockey podcast right here on Second City Sports. Sydney and Lakeena here with you. Before we move on to my next question, Rachel, you don't like those commercials by David Pastrnak of the Boston Bruins from a couple years ago with the Dunkin' Donuts? I believe Hatch was one of them as well. That's what I'm talking about. You got to expand your horizons.
The Dunkin' Donuts commercials hit it out of the park, but Dunkin' Donuts I'm fine with. Like, he's hysterical, and he was the perfect person to put up there and to put up with I'm blanking on her name, the blonde who works for the Blackhawks now, the hockey player, the fastest skater.
Kendall Coyne.
Kendall Coyne, thank you. Woo! I can like see her face. That I thought those were hilarious. And like they played it perfectly and they were written perfectly for the hockey fan. They weren't written for the non-hockey fan. And I don't know if any of those commercials aired not on NBC Sports or not within hockey play.
That's the problem.
But that commercial doesn't work playing in the non-hockey space, you know? So anyway, I love Pastrnak. I think he's hysterical, but hearts go out to him. He's had a loss recently. So
yeah. Last couple of minutes with Rachel. Of course, Rachel, your other love. I know you're going to be following them pretty soon. Of course, I've been out to several games this year, and that's the Chicago White Sox. As of right now, they're in first place in the American League Central. Of course, many people think that this is the year to win the World Series. Of course, our manager, Joey La Russa, coming out of retirement. A whole bunch of injuries. Of course, Eloy Jimenez, he may be back soon. Luis Robert, who was injured early in the year, he may be back sometime later on this season. It's a mash unit over there on the south side right now, Rachel. I know you haven't been following as close as you want to. I know you're going to pick it up within the next week or so. But from your far observations, do you have hope with this team doing well in the playoffs this year?
Yeah, always. I've always got hope in the White Sox. I mean, music to my ears, what you just said. First in the Central, like
yes.
What? How did that happen? And I love Coach La Russa. I think he's a pistol. He's exactly what you get all the time. He's exactly that personality, and I'm here for it. I'm here for that kind of old school coaching mentality. I haven't been watching, like I said, because I'm knee deep in all things hockey and playoffs, but I will start watching some of the games, and I keep up with the headlines, and you keep me updated, Sid, with the pictures and everything that's going on. So I appreciate it. But Yeah, I'm always here for the White Sox. I'm always rooting for them. I always want to see us go far and prove all of the like baseball fans wrong that we aren't a real baseball team. And I always say that Chicago White Sox are the only place you go is to Comiskey Park is to watch real baseball in Chicago.
Yes, she called it Comiskey. Yes.
Always.
Yes.
I don't even know what the hell it's called now. Is it Garrett?
Don't worry about it.
It's like, no, it's
Whatever.
Comiskey. It's
Whatever.
Comiskey. It'll always be that to me.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, I'll first of all, I'm a fan. I call it what the hell I want to call it. The only thing, the two things that the White Sox get from me, my money and my beautiful butt in that seat. That is it. Outside of that, I could call it whatever the hell I want to call it.
Exactly.
Oh.
See?
Oh,
there it is.
Yeah, like they've changed the name so many times. I'm just like,
Yes.
you know what? It's a Comiskey. I'm not calling it anything else. It'll always be that. I hope that's what it still says on the L exit on the red line.
I think it just says, Sox 35th now. Mhm.
That's all it is. They don't even.
That's-
They
Of
don't,
course, yeah. Of course, I think you've known this, Rachel. Of course, I ride the Metro line, which is they call it the Rock Island line. They built to stop. This is now a decade ago. They have used the Metro line stop at 35th Lou Jones. So for the last decade, yours truly has not. I repeat, has not had to pay for the overpriced parking, and damn, I intend on keeping it that way.
Yes. Yeah, but you could tailgate now, so that's kind of
Yes.
You can, yeah.
Yes.
Thank goodness.
Yes.
Yeah, thank goodness, everything's starting to open up. So, Rachel, last question for last question for me. It's sort of interesting that the NHL is sort of like, right there in the, no one's really talking about the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think people are kind of starting to get into it, especially with the story with the Montreal Canadiens. Do you think the Canadians? I know I might have missed it earlier when you said it, but do you think the Canadians can try to can catch up and win this series, or you think it's going to be very hard for them to try to win 4?
I think it's going to be very, very, very hard, and I would be shocked if they do. Unfortunately, I think they might win tonight. I think they might win Game 3. I'm going to put that prediction here right now, but I think being back on home ice in Montreal is going to be good for them. I think having their coach behind them again, I think they might win tonight. Are they going to win the Stanley Cup? I would be absolutely shocked. And I think Tampa would have to absolutely fall apart and not have the luck. And I mean, anything can happen. It is playoff hockey, and we've seen it all happen, but I don't think it will, even though that's what I want to happen. I can't. Those are two different things.
All right, that was Rachel Kopczyk, Chicago's very own. She's the co-host of the House of Hockey podcast. P.S. My future ex-wife.
Yeah, we already got one argument here about Gary Bettman and marketing.
And plenty more to come.
We're adding them up. We're putting them on the list to head into divorce.
Oh gosh, okay.
Yeah, she's the co-host of the House of Hockey podcast. You can you can download that podcast wherever you can download your podcast. She's on social media via the Instagram at The Lady on TV, and I'm blanking out here now. I'm starting to get old. The Hockey Lady, thank you. Lady on TV and The Hockey Lady. Rachel, stay right there. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay right there. Lakeena, it's been another great episode of Second City Sports Weekend edition for this 4th of July holiday. Do not do anything stupid. Enjoy your holiday. Weekend. Be safe with your family, with your friends. Do not do too much drinking, and still stay distant. Stay healthy, be safe, and don't do anything stupid. Lakeena, closes out.
You can follow me at Keena McGee on the Twitter and at Keena_McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sydney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at CK80. Once again, at CK80, SIDKID80, SIDKID80. You can follow this podcast, Second City Sports, right here on YouTube at War Media. Once again, at WARR Media. Subscribe. Videos drop every Monday and Friday right here on YouTube. Once again, videos drop every Monday and Friday. Our audio version of this podcast is available at War on Anchor. We're available on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. Make sure you type in that search engine box WARR on Anchor. And you go to our website, weareregalradio.com. And you can follow us on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at War Media. Once again, that WARR Media. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Yes, and we'd like to thank our guest once again, Miss Rachel Kopczyk, friend of the show and Chicago's very own, for joining us here today. Make sure you go support her. If you don't, there's going to be problems. But we trust you guys that you're going to support her. She's passionate about hockey and the White Sox and everything else, so you go support her. For Rachel, for Lakeena, I'm Sid. Happy 4th of July holiday. Enjoy your weekend. We'll catch you back here next week on Second City Sports. Until then, till next time, holla!
Enjoy the sports, everybody, and do not, stay away from the fireworks, folks. I'm just saying. I'm not, we won't rehash anything, but be safe, okay?
Well.